Yes, guys, we've gone a bit early today, but what's up, guys? Welcome to Box to Box Football. Welcome to our live. Just gonna react to the big news of Manchester United finally getting a win on their board and beating Liverpool 2-1. Shock. Not really, but yeah, just I feel like it's really interesting. We're gonna obviously touch on the rest of the other games, but just again, first things first, touch on the Manchester United game and what what is going on there. But Jack, before we get started, you can't wait for everybody to get in. How have you been?
Yeah, man, not bad. Not bad. You know, trying to keep an eye on stuff. You know, Roma had a nice another 1-0 victory today, so it's 2 wins out of 2, which I'm gonna take. It's very Jose Mourinho. You know, no goals conceded across 2 game weeks, and kind of a good amount of opportunities, not having too much possession. So yeah, it's been good. Like I say, I'm a little bit disappointed with Roma's offensive output in terms of their finishing, but 2 wins out of 2 is, you know, it's all I can really ask for. The Premier League has been fascinating. I think you and I can both agree that, again, it's hilarious watching everybody overcommit, you know, prisoner of the moment type opinions on people, especially with regard, you know, like James, you know, Man United are in crisis, worst season ever. They're now above Liverpool. Who were second favourites for the title. So again, like, you know, James, I think you make the point. It's about 10 game weeks. Yeah, you know, 10 game weeks for me is about the time that I would look at it too, because at the moment it depends who you come up against, and whoever you come up against, you know, everybody's got to play everybody twice, and that kind of makes a huge difference.
Yeah, to me, it's like for people looking at, Arsenal have the only 100% record there, and to me, I don't think any Arsenal fan should be that high, and I don't think any other fans should be that low. It should be a middle ground playing field. No one should be looking at the table or taking much. I think you look at the games and like take a lot from the games. And again, guys, we're going to talk about the games, and we're going to get into all the games and what has played out throughout this week. But let's talk about the big news today, Jack. Manchester United finally getting their first win of the season. Eric Ten Hag's first competitive win as Manchester United manager, beating Liverpool 2-1, arch rivals. Jack, what did you think of the game and overall Manchester United's performance, Jack?
I thought they were a lot better. I still don't think it's the best they can do. I still think there's a lot more that this team can improve on and do a hell of a lot better in terms of their approach to the game, development and whatnot. But again, James, I think a lot of credit has to go to Eric Ten Hag here to a certain extent. I look at large similarities to your Arsenal and what Mikel Arteta did, you know, over the course of last season. Yeah, you captain's on the bench now. And again, I've been calling for this for a long time. Swallow your pride. Harry Maguire is not that guy. Harry Maguire is not that guy. One of my kind of predictions pre-season here was that, yeah, Varane Martinez was always going to be the best partnership. And, you know, the sooner he figures that out, the better. It seems like in game week 3, he's figured that out. Rashford's best game in a long time that I can think of in terms of his work rate, ability to get into good positions and whatnot. And yeah, it seemed good. Malacia looked okay. And again, Liverpool, yeah, we can talk about injuries and stuff, but you know, I think Jurgen Klopp needs to get this team out of the excuses mentality, because James, excuses excuse bad performances, and you and I both know that, you know, it is not because of injuries that this team lost today. You know, that is a fact. I think Jamie Carragher even mentioned it in commentary. This was still basically a starting 11 like worthy of Liverpool Football Club. Okay, you're missing a couple of players, don't get me wrong, but goalkeeper, back four, midfield, forwards, it's a very strong team still. I mean, from the bench, obviously it's weak, but you know, from the time that first 11 was on the pitch for, they should have performed a lot better. But yeah, I'm with you. Liverpool, there's work to be done. But again, there were times during that last 10, 15 minutes where I thought that game was going to be 2-2. I'll be honest with you. And Man United fans, I wouldn't get carried away. You'd argue this is the best time to play Liverpool, and you've taken advantage of the best time to play them. And I don't think Manchester United played that well. I think they played well enough to win, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're back and they're going to be top 4 contenders now. That certainly wouldn't be that for me.
Before I do talk, guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We're close to 700, so please, guys, hit that
one off, aren't we?
One off. So whoever's joined us, who hasn't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, get us our 700 mark. But guys,
make a second account, do the right thing,
do what you have to do. But I feel like when I look at the game, Manchester United to me overall were worthy winners. I mentioned a reaction. We mentioned the thing with the fans. You talk about getting up for a game. You talk about the perfect game to get your season started. How about your arch nemesis, Liverpool? And everything kind of worked out for them. The one thing you mentioned at the start is Eric Ten Hag and how brave he was with that lineup. You know, the first things first, leaving out the captain. I feel like the biggest thing was to leave out Harry Maguire. We know the speculation behind them, and maybe does this how Manchester United go for the rest of the season? I probably do agree with you there. Second call, in my opinion, was leaving out Cristiano Ronaldo and going for this counter attack lineup with like direct players like Alanga, Rashford, and Jadon Sancho. All that stuff worked in there. In my like, secondly, leaving out Fred. I know like people may say, oh, like Fred isn't good and everything like that, but the balance of having two players like that, especially with a team like Liverpool who will dominate possession, having that two defensive double pivot does does work. But he went for that bit of creativity with Eriksen there, and it worked out massively there. A lot of, to me, very, very good performances, a lot of encouraging performance. You mentioned Malassi, you said he was all right. Jack, I felt against one of arguably, people would argue, the best Premier League player, especially offensively, I felt he handled himself superb. He was fantastic. I can't remember how many times Mo Salah was able to go past him, if any. If I'm being truthfully honest. On the other side, Dalot, Jack, he was absolutely immense himself. Phenomenal.
I'm still Malassi. I think I'll be sold on pretty quickly. He seems like the kind of a perfect modern day fullback. Dalot, I don't know what it is. There just seems to be something where I'm not quite sold just yet.
Listen, I agree with you, but based on what he produced on the day, I felt even like having an early yellow card, he handled himself well against a player as tricky as as Luis Diaz. I felt Jack Bruno, that's one of the best performances I've seen him off the ball, Jack. He does work hard, but the amount of times he's making last ditch challenges, he's clearing the ball, he's pressing. Like there was a chance that he was able to create where he makes a direct one and slides in, was able to pinch ahead of Gomez, and Alanga hits the post.
Well, again, James, I think his problem is he's gotten into the habit over the last 12, 18 months of just throwing, what at the wall and hoping something sticks. This is the man. I think last year he was either first or second in chances created. So again, this is not a guy who is afraid of doing, playing that X factor ball, doing that thing that not everybody else is capable of. But like we talk about, James, as well, stats lie, right? Does a Kevin De Bruyne chance created look the same as a Bruno Fernandes chance created? Probably not, right? So what I think he needs to do is start doing it, the quality of chance creation needs to be better, and his domination over the ball needs to be a little bit better. I think that needs to be the main takeaway. But like you said, he seemed a bit more reinvigorated. Again, we see the dark arts and some of the stuff he's good at. Again, I'm a fan. I hated the penalty dive, and I'm glad he got yellow carded for that. But again, taking the ball back to the center circle again. His team are kicking off, and all that's happening is he's just taking the ball to the center circle, James. He's about to kick off, right? And then they're trying to take the ball from him. Again, dark arts, guys. It's here to stay in football, I'm afraid.
Do you know what I liked from him? I can see he really embraced the role of captain, which was very, very impressive for him. He took the responsibility. One thing about him that you mentioned, it's a plus and it's also a downside at the same time. At the same time, especially at the highest level, he takes a lot of risk. So you might have times where he's giving the ball away in silly positions. Why? Because he's willing to get his head up no matter what. Because he backs his ability. And I'm a big fan of that. Just at times he can be quite reckless with the ball, and at the highest level, you will get punished.
Well, James, especially now, I think that if you've got a Christian Eriksen in your team, if you're going to give Sancho a bit more, reign, if the fullbacks are going to be more of an attacking threat than they have been historically, he doesn't have to carry the team in that aspect of his life. So I think of his life, of his game. So I think he can, the manager maybe will say to him, hey, listen, that killer ball that you're always trying to play, don't worry about it. If it's on, do it, because I know you can execute it. But on the times where you think that, there's a 1 in 100 chance, don't. Play the smart ball, right? Keep the ball moving, and then you can go from there. Like I say, there's more players around who can do that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Another part that I want to look at, Jack, the center back pairing of Varane and Martinez
looks good.
Are you a fan? Listen, it looked. Do you know what it is?
They play off each other really nicely, and also the relationship between De Gea and Martinez, which I saw at times. there's a kind of there's a Spanish speaking kind of understanding there across all three of them now. And again, I don't think any Manchester United fans or Eric Ten Hag is going to be too upset if that three of De Gea, Varane, and Lisandro Martinez are all speaking Spanish to each other, because if the understanding is there and the defending is good, there's going to be no problem.
I'll get onto that in a minute, Silver Surfer. But the one thing I realize is that Varane has taken a bit of a step back to his approach as Real Madrid. Actually, to be fair, he's never really been a front foot defender, as in he tries to nip in. He's more of a guy who's covered there. He's gonna run in behind, and like Martinez has has the mindset that I want to nip in every single time. You seen Jack in the first minute when he got the massive tangle up with Mo Salah, and he stood up and the crowd loved this. So they really,
him, right? Hey, I'm here. I'm here. I'm 5'9", but I'm here.
Exactly that. That sort of Ricardo Carvalho. To me, you need that sort of things. When you have two very passive centre backs like Varane and Maguire, I don't think it kind of works out there. That's why to me, John Terry and Carvalho was so great together, because one of them was on the front foot, the other one was a bit more reserved, and we've seen that the balance was great in for Manchester United. Could you imagine Casemiro in there too? So so it's going to be a completely new Manchester United midfield. I don't know, you call it the middle three.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think with Ten Hag, it's that classic. It's the rotation, the variable thing, and this is, I think, James, I'll be honest, it's something I've thought about a lot recently. It's the kind of thing that we need to start looking at in terms of our own analysis, because football is not a formation-based game anymore. It's played in phases, and people have different jobs within phases. So again, sometimes it can be more rigid, but a lot more of the time in modern football, we're seeing it as a hell of a lot more fluid.
First of all, Jadon Sancho, much better today. I didn't see as much of it. I don't think he was as electric as, let's say, Alanga, I felt he was a bit more effective. And like Marcus Rashford, that's one of the best games I've seen him play, in a world. The confidence was oozing, how direct he was at times. And also Anthony Martial too, when he came on there, Jack. That, to me, that directness, that ability just to go forward. And listen, when he eliminates plays, he does it with ease. So I feel like that's very positive. But on the other hand, Jack, we have to look at it from... Oh, we hit 700, guys. Thank you so much, Jack. Jack just let us know. Let's get to 800. So keep on clicking, guys. Let's let us get to 800. Also, remember to like this video too. Really, really important. Liverpool, 3 games. Haven't won a game yet. First of all, I went blank a little bit there. 2 draws, 1 loss. And to be fair, when you look at the run-in at the start, you would have looked at them games and be like, Liverpool can probably get 3 out of 3 wins.
Right. Mm-hmm. Even at Old Trafford, James, you probably would have banked on them getting 3 from 3.
You look at where Liverpool's at. They let Mane go, and that no matter what, that's always going to be a cloud over their head. They bring in Nunez, but where do Liverpool go from here? Because I get it's very early in the season, and I tell everybody, don't panic. Liverpool fans shouldn't panic, but Liverpool's ambition is to challenge for the title, and the margins between them and Man City are very, very, very slim. Where does Jurgen Klopp's team go from here, Jack?
Well, James, I don't think they're that slim. I think this was something that, I don't know if you want to correct me on this, but it's something that you and I thought prior to the season. No, the gap is not slim anymore. I think there is a gap. I would put Liverpool in there with, with Chelsea and Spurs as that kind of next tier, right? And why not throw United the top 6? I would say that kind of there is a 5, there's a 1, and then there's a 5 in the 2 tiers, right? I'd say that's what we're looking at now. And again, I know we've had comments saying, well, that's not the case, and look at this and look at that. But based on what we've seen so far, I do think that Man City are the better team. Now, should Liverpool fans be worried to a point they're not going to make top 4? No, I don't think so at all. I still think that this team will finish second. I have no questions about that. Go ahead, mate.
But I'm not talking about getting top 4, Jack. We're talking about winning the league. That's Liverpool's biggest aim. It's winning the league.
Yeah, they won't win the league. I mean, I felt pretty confident saying that from prior to the season, and obviously you and I will have our final table prediction after the transfer window shuts. But yeah, I do not believe that they're in a position to win the league. Unfortunately, the loss of Mane is still huge. Now, I still maintain that with the likes of Jota, with the likes of Luis Diaz, there's enough there to be as replacements in that position. Darwin Nunez, we think, will still do very well, but the positive changes haven't been made, because James, I'll ask you, who are the kind of new guys, younger guys coming up the pipeline that we've seen with the likes of a Man City, for example, who we can now see develop and bring forward. There's a fluidity to the development pattern that's taking place at Man City at the moment, whereas with Liverpool, we're not really seeing that. I've mentioned this before, James, a large proportion of that squad is in its 30s, early 30s now. Now, in some positions, that's fine. Centre back, holding midfield, sure, that's fine. But especially in attacking areas, that's not the best position that you want to be in. I don't think Mo Salah will be at the peak of his powers. You know how I felt about his new contract. That for me was not the best, utilization of that money. That's potentially a little bit of a hot take, right? I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with me. But again, if a team was willing to pay like 100+ million for Mo Salah, I'd have ripped their arm off and taken that, reinvested in other areas of the squad. So again, Klopp's a really good motivator. They are struggling with injuries, but I think they need to get out of this mindset of the blame game and the excuses that now excuse poor performances.
I mentioned last year about Liverpool defensively, and to me, this is what Liverpool are. Liverpool are going to play a high line. Liverpool are going to take risk in, obviously, when call for a lot of offsides and like try to catch teams out. But Jack, there's a plus side to it, but there's also a negative side to it. And like we've seen it there, Crystal Palace the other week, with like Wilfred Zaha beating the offside trap today with Marcus Rashford and Elanga and like Jadon Sancho on a number of occasions. To me, it's this right now. Liverpool, that defensive line, you need to be as pinpoint as possible with it. If one player's off, Jack, the whole thing collapses. Mm-hmm. And I just look at Liverpool right now, defensively, I'm not sure where they're at. Sometimes they need to tell Trent to like get back in position. At times he wanders and he gets caught. So there's a lot of stuff that kind of goes on there from Liverpool's defensive line that needs to that to me needs a lot of cover. I then look at it for me, the midfield three, Jack. You had Elliott there, who was, in my opinion, head and shoulders.
Yeah, he looked good. He was lively.
Three. Mm-hmm. You had Henderson and Milner. That's difficult to overcome. That's difficult in general for a team.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And James, you mentioned the fullbacks there. Like, yeah, I'm not worried about the fullbacks playing anybody on side because they're way too high up the pitch. Now, again, that's fine if you're putting crosses in, getting assists and scoring goals like, the Robertson and Trent of the last however many years. But when you're having a Martial or a Rashford or a Sancho run a channel and the centre-backs are being split, you got somebody like a Milner or a Henderson busting their gut to get to the midfield, and you have willing runners from midfield or even through the striker position or coming in off the other wing from Manchester United, that defence is just getting absolutely torn apart. So, yeah, again, it's something to think about. I do have full faith in Jurgen Klopp. James, also the transfer market is not closed, and as much as people may want to be like, oh yeah, but
Jack, I'll be back 2 seconds. Go on.
Okay, but they've as much as they've spent a hell of a lot of money in those positions. This is always so weird when it's just me. Well, they've spent a lot of money, a great deal of money on Nunez, and you might think, well, that's the whole budget gone. That's not always necessarily the case. It doesn't always work out that way. It's very, very easy that a player can be sold. I think, didn't we see, James, we saw Nico Williams go for like 15 mil, 18 mil, something like that. Again, guys, if they can sell a guy who doesn't, no disrespect, but doesn't seem to be at a top level, seem to be worth a damn, then, you got some money to potentially bring in a player. There's free agents out there. There's all sorts of stuff that they can do loans. So they might be tempted. There's, I think, 9-10 days left of the transfer window here. They might be tempted to just dip their toe back in the water and try and get some cover. Because James, even a season-long loan for a player, why not at this stage? Why not?
Jack, I look at, to me, the biggest thing is, defensively is an issue there, but defensively can be solved. Offensively, I'm a little bit worried about Liverpool because you look at it right now, it's like the balance of having Salah's always going to be the main goal man, and I get it, Darwin Nunez is going to score goals too, but how sure are you of that? Salah, I have no problem with, but then everybody else, where does the goals come from? Well, to me, at this moment of time.
But you and I think, both can agree Nunez will score goals. I don't think it's going to be 100 million worth of goals. I think that, James, we even talked about this. Is Darwin Nunez that much better than Divock Origi? I don't know. Seriously, at this stage, I don't know. If Divock Origi started games in a row for Liverpool, would the results be that much different than if it's going to be when it's going to be Darwin Nunez? Seriously, I don't know. And I'm not trying to be dramatic. I'm just saying it's a point of contention there. That left hand side, like I say, I'm okay with it. I don't think they have somebody who's come in to upgrade what Sadio Mane was bringing them. But I think if you spread it out over the course of a Jota, of a Luis Diaz, etc., I think on balance you have that side of the field covered with talent. I think Luis Diaz is a great player, and going into this season, I know Mane's got it nice and easy at Bayern, and he'll do incredibly well there in terms of his goal scoring. But I think Luis Diaz has a lot of ability.
I look at another thing, like you mentioned that, Jack, that midfield that we talked about, how bit of a struggle it is there. Fabinho and Thiago, probably the Liverpool's first choice when everybody's fit and ready to go. But of course, the injuries are quite bad right now. Do you think Liverpool need to invest in that area? Because I look at it right now and I think it's a really, really, really poor area for Liverpool. And Jack, I think another thing is that a lot of teams in the world can beat Liverpool. If you're picking an XL11, the one area that you seem to get out with Liverpool is in midfield. Do you not think Liverpool need to look at that?
Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. Because we have to remember the players that have been like kind of lost, that were always there or thereabouts, right? The Adam Lallanas were there or thereabouts at one point. Okay, Oxlade-Chamberlain was kind of in and around there or there, but do you know what I mean? They had these kind of guys who were never like week in, week out starters, but guys who could come in and still execute the same role that Klopp would have wanted them to do in that system. Right now, yes, James Milner has 0.2% body fat and is fit as a fiddle and stuff, but what's the cliche? Father Time is undefeated. Thiago's always going to get injured. Jordan Henderson is not getting any younger. And again, I think a lot of his ability relies in his intangibles, not his tangible ability as a footballer. You need to put talent around Jordan Henderson for Jordan Henderson to succeed. So Fabinho, I think, is a great, great piece. But again, it's that kind of cherry on top for that holding spot to allow everybody else to do their job. So yeah, Naby Keita, he's still hurt, right? So he's unavailable too. So, James, I hate to say it, and I hate to rob your guys of a potential last-ditch effort in the transfer market, but Yuri Tielemans is there with a year left on his deal, and I think he would work really nicely in that Liverpool team. I'm sorry to say, but
if you're a Liverpool fan, just completely ignore what Jack said there.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything. In Liverpool, if you're hearing this,
shut up.
Shut up. Okay, we've reacted to the Man United Liverpool game. We might touch on a little bit more of Manchester United, but let's just run down a few of the
Can I just quickly
pictures.
say, James, because I'm like just kind of reflecting on the conversations that we just had. If anybody's watching, we're not going mental because I don't feel that James, again, stop me at any point. I don't think James and I are writing Liverpool off or now saying that Man United are title contenders. It's just it's very mixed bag, right? United won, fine, but they didn't play that amazing. And yeah, Liverpool, okay, have lost. But again, I don't think it was that egregious that I think they're going to get relegated or not make top four or anything like that now. It was a very, do you know what I mean, James? I think a lot of United fans are going to be like, oh my God, we're back. And then a lot of Liverpool fans are going to be like, oh no, we're terrible. We're never going to win again. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's that at all. That's not what I saw from the game.
But Jack, we're 3 games into the season right now. Things are still trying to take place. We're not like we're halfway through the season and it's like this big. Yes, it's a big result, but with so much to with so much to do. Manchester United drop points next week and Liverpool win. Liverpool go ahead of Manchester United. So it's not. No one here should be kicking and screaming and doing anything crazy.
That's what I'm saying.
I mentioned level head. Like United won, cool. Man United still got a lot of stuff to bring in this year and like a lot to do.
And guys, again, I'm trying to make the point here as well. Like James and I are very much just trying to keep it real. Like if James and I feel super strongly about a particular topic, we'll tell you and we'll let you know. And it might be something that you think, oh, why do they feel so strongly about that? But this is just one of those things where, yeah, we're not going to like start going crazy just because of this game. I mean, it was a big game, sure, but guys, there are plenty more big games to be played across this season. Trust me.
It's too early in the season. Okay. Let's talk about Spurs. I've been seeing Silver Surfer there. He's been letting me know. Come on,
Sam's in there too.
It's letting us know. Let's talk about Spurs. 1-0 win against Wolves, Jack. How are you feeling about this? Is you feeling something different from this Spurs team, Jack, or is it just a normal day at the office?
Well, hey, listen. I mean, this Wolves team. I think we know that. What was it? 7 Portuguese outfield players, right? They're making James. They're making big moves. Like Mateus Nunes as well is coming in midfield. Gonzalo Guedes as well. Like again, this is a talented player, but again, I'm not overly sold on them. There's been lots of links with Neto potentially being sold, so I wonder if that will come into play at some point over the next week here. Not the offensive performance I was strictly looking for from them, I'll be honest. And again, I think maybe we'll touch on this a little later on this evening about the attacking potency. Oh my God, James, look at me. Potency of Spurs. But yeah, again, this is what I think Antonio Conte brings. Again, I'm just going to pat myself on the back here a little bit. Roma have played 2 games this year. Both games have been 1-0. Again, those are clean sheets and you win the game. You get the same amount of points as if you win 10-0. So listen, the result's the result. It's fine. But again, it's the optics of the situation, how the game looks. It wasn't super comfortable, wasn't super convincing, but these are the results I think that in previous managements with Spurs, with that kind of quote-unquote weaker mentality that I think Spurs teams can be susceptible to, those are the games that might turn into draws. But with Conte, with this new kind of grit and determination the Spurs teams have, James, I still stand by it. Spurs, Liverpool, and Man City are the 3 teams who I think can win the league. I think Spurs are the least likely of the 3, but I think they can do it. And results like that, just checking whether it was home or away. It was home. Okay, fine. I'd have been more impressed by it if it was in Wolverhampton. But again, 3 points is 3 points, James. So again, I'm not going to get too overexcited with Spurs, but it's been a strong start to the season.
I won't say impressed, but it's a one where they got away with it because I thought Wolves would left the game, and they should have left the game feeling disappointed because I feel like they controlled enough of the game to create the chances that they had to score a few goals there and maybe even walk out with like 3 points. But one thing I do like about Tottenham is that other games that I will watch them, it's the ones where they might have 0 shots on targets, not really creating, people weren't up for it. And it got like that. The first 45 minutes wasn't that great. But one thing about Tottenham now is that on the bench, they can bring on a player like Richarlison to kind of change the flow of the game there. And like, to me, that's what they were able to do. I love what they were able to do by bringing in Richarlison, went a bit more direct. And as much as I can say what I want to say about the guy, Harry Kane, he is what he is. He's a born goal scorer. He takes his goal well. But even before that, there was a good 15-minute spell where Tottenham were creating chance after chance after chance after chance. They hit the post twice from a Harry Kane shot, a Son shot. So they were seriously threatening.
Silver Surfer, has anybody told Jack that he looks like Kulusevski, ginger from Sweden? Hey, I'll take it. I'm not gonna lie, I'll take it. Throw a beard on Kulusevski, maybe you got me. I don't know. Yeah, James, listen, I agree with you. I'm just looking at the stats sheet, and again, I know we can't read everything from stats. 20 shots from Wolves, 3 on target. This is always going to be the problem. An injury-plagued Raul Jimenez, unfortunately is not going to be the same as an in-form and fighting Raul Jimenez. They need to fix that striker position. I know, I think was it Fabio Silva was brought in from, was it Porto, I think? That didn't work out, although people were super excited about him, especially everybody who's owned Football Manager from like 2018 to 2020. But yeah, they need to figure out that striker position. And James, Spurs, one thing I remember from that game, Højbjerg, Bentancur everywhere, and for a fact that they just don't want to get screamed at by Conte. So that's his influence in there for sure.
Yeah. So I now want to move on to Southampton versus Leicester versus Southampton. And yes, Southampton, great comeback. Che Adams, 2 phenomenal goals there. But I just want to touch on one thing here. I've been seeing a quite big shift in James Maddison in his play, Jack, in what he's been able to do. And it is coming close to the World Cup. Should he's definitely knocking at the door right now, but should Gareth Southgate consider taking him over certain players, that are like nailed on to be in the England team?
I think we have too many players that are similar who are better. And I think that he's just stuck in a tough situation where he's in a position group where England have stylistically similar players who, like I say, are just operating on a better level. I mentioned this in our preseason conversations with regards to Leicester. Yeah, the momentum's just going the complete other way. I don't know whether they were expecting to sell Fofana earlier or whether they were expecting to sell Tielemans earlier so that they could then go into the transfer market, create some buzz about bringing some new players in. Maybe they thought Patson Daka would develop more than he has, or something. Sumare, I think, was in there in central midfield, whether he'd come in and play a little more. I don't know what the thought process was, but again, I just get a sense that it's a bit deflated there at Leicester City, and I don't know whether Brendan Rodgers needs to leave or whether they need to do something, because James, they're not even gonna rival the European spots with the way it's going.
Yeah, I feel like with Leicester, they're not like a team that's just trying to stay up. They're always trying to challenge and trying to. They seem to, in the last 5 years, try to break into that top four. Well, like they have done once by winning the league, which is incredible. But another game that I want to touch on now was Crystal Palace versus Aston Villa, 3-1 to Crystal Palace, Jack. This Steven Gerrard appointment hasn't worked out the way we would hope it was going to. And
No.
is it getting are you getting a little bit worried now, Jack?
Jim, I'm seeing Twitter comparisons to Gary Neville at Valencia. That's what I'm seeing. Now, that's not a good thing. Gary Neville will tell you that. So listen, I don't think it can be denied what he did at Rangers. By no means is that a Bayern Munich, a Juventus, PSG, like best team, better than all the other teams and just win. That Rangers were the lesser of these, two giant teams, and they had to really come in and beat this huge rival. So I think credit where credit's due there. I think with Villa, the tricky part of it is I think he's trying to manage a football team that he thinks have the caliber of like Man City, that, the dominance thing that maybe he had at Rangers at a time. Whereas Villa, obviously, you need to play differently. Villa have talented players across the team. Absolutely they do. But again, week in and week out, you're going to come up against squads that are at your level, if not better. So I think Gerrard maybe needs to just change his approach ever so slightly. But yeah, I'm a little bit worried. But I think from Villa's standpoint, realistically, as long as they're not going down, I think that they should just stick with Gerrard, let him do his thing. But again, James, my main thing about this, Patrick Vieira, we need to give a hell of a lot of credit to. Again, like, this was a guy who took over the highest turnover squad from last season. They've come in this year and they've made some nice pickups and nice signings. All we've seen is them do incredibly well against Liverpool, convincingly beat Aston Villa. And then, again, like, I don't know what more you want this guy to do for a team that, should really have probably gone down over the last however many years. Wilf seems to have him kind of firing as well. So, again, Patrick Vieira and that Palace side deserve a lot of credit.
Also, Jack, Wilfried Zaha is already hitting cult status in the Premier League. What he's doing with Crystal Palace, incredible. Another game I want to talk about: London derby, Fulham Brentford. Jack, 3-2 to Fulham, last minute winner for Mitrovic, and I think like we have two really impressive strikers on both sides, from Ivan Toney from Brentford, who had a goal disallowed, and then also took the equalizer really well in Mitrovic, Shaq, who's just an absolute handful, phenomenal header to win the game. What was your thoughts on that game?
Well, first of all, if you're gun to my head asking me to pick an English football team to support, I'm a Fulham fan. So, James, don't get me wrong, I'm always keeping an eye out. I'm always rooting for them. I know we went to a good handful of games while we were at university together as well. João Palhinha scoring is great. I think it's just a nice little buzz. You're not going to expect many goals from him, but I think it's really good to like solidify his kind of break into this team. Yeah, Mitrovic, again, just silencing people. Always going to be a handful, even if he doesn't score. But if he gets the goals, he then adds the notoriety, gets the confidence as well. James, there's a nice little rivalry bubbling away here. This was the first time these two have played each other in the Premier League era. So again, James, look, I know that Chelsea are still miles ahead of these two teams, but again, we could be Fulham and Brentford. I mean, these two are like kind fan bases, family type clubs, and all this kind of stuff. But again, at a top level on a week-to-week basis, we could be looking at a rivalry here that could, we could be seeing the seedlings of something here.
Quick game I want to touch on before I get into my team, Everton, Nottingham Forest. The first thing I'm going to say, Nottingham Forest, they should be disappointed that they didn't come out with all 3 points in that game.
True.
The goal that they gave away was absolutely horrible. From a goal kick, you can clearly see the goalkeeper's winding up to hit it long. Nobody decides to drop, just get caught up by Demarai Gray. There was great finish on like Demarai Gray side, but if you're not on Forest for that goal, you're thinking my back line did not cover ourselves in glory there. That was very, very poor.
Well, James, again, this is a team that have signed 16 players. They've spent 140 million, something stupid like that. You know, this
that's intent. And if you're not a Forest fan, you should respect that.
Oh, 100%. But we've seen this story before. Spend a load of money for whatever reason, it doesn't work out, right? And then you really screw yourself over financially going forward. So if Forest are going to try and ride this wave, let's call it, of back in the Premier League and still having that kind of new excitement factor with them in the team, with them back in the league, then I think that they need to start taking results like this. Because again, James, once we get past after the World Cup in particular, these results are not going to be as easy to come by.
Definitely. Again, guys, before I get into Arsenal, if you haven't already hit that subscribe button, and also that like button. Really, really important for the algorithm and also for the growth of this channel. But now let's talk about my team. 3 games, 3 wins. Arsenal went away to Bournemouth, winning 3-0. Nice little smile on my face.
Done good.
As you can see, I'm not here going, "Hey, let's have you." I know it's football, and you when you get high, don't get too high. Don't get too low. It's that middle ground. But Arsenal, Jack's looking very, very impressive at this moment of time.
I don't know what you have to be potentially upset about at all. You know, like you said, I don't think we need to get carried away. You know, I think of Icarus, right? Like, let's not get too low. Let's not get too high. Let's kind of coast and just see where things are. I would like to see Arsenal go up home or away against a better team and then get something out of the game, a draw or a win. I think I would be okay with. But for me, you know, again,
it's
I don't know what.
Possibility, Silver Surfer. It's a possibility.
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no on that one for Arsenal. I still think that there will be ups and downs. But again, James, there's nothing. There's no chinks in the armor. There's no cracks here that I'm looking at that I'm going to tell you going into the next game. Oh, James, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. It's all pointing. It's all looking good. It's all pointing upwards. But like I say, how will they do against the better opposition? They've had tricky fixtures, James, in these 3 games. Don't get it twisted. These have been hard games they've had to win. But again, that's like it is all the way in the Premier League here. But I want to see them go away to a Liverpool, be at home against a City, go to Old Trafford, etc., etc.
Jack, let me give you a good example here. You know, Espirito Santo won his first 3 games as Tottenham manager. I think he was sacked by what, November or like right. December. That doesn't make that much of a big difference for me, if I'm being truthfully honest. We won, happy about it. Some really, really good performances. Jack, Gabriel Jesus.
James, money well spent. Holy hell.
It's looking ferocious. And it's not to me, the goals are obviously great, but it's the outside the goals. It's the all-round play, Jack.
Chip on his shoulder, James.
Jack, the goal that he sets up when the ball's in the air, and you see a lot of strikers there, they'll duck and they're not really want it. Jack, he nudges the guy off, phenomenal control, beats 1, beats 2, little reverse passing. It's all round play. It's ratty. I mentioned the Luis Suarez similarity, and I see it there from how slalom he is. He's able to beat guys. Now, if he can emulate half of what Luis Suarez was able to do for Liverpool, we have a chance of doing something special this year. But he, to me, has been the biggest up for Arsenal. But relax. I feel like with Arsenal, I still want to see 2 more signs coming. We bring in a Pedro Neto that I'm seeing us linked with, which I think is going to be really good. And we bring in Yuri Tielemans. Then we can have a bit more of a proper discussion right now. But right now with Arsenal.
Well, and again, I hate to say this again, but like, you know, striker. Still need another striker. I'm sorry, but Eddie Nketiah is not the guy as a backup. He is not. This Arsenal team gets deflated very, very quickly in the squad, dressing room, whatever you want to call it. If Gabriel Jesus pulls a hamstring or, God forbid, does a cruciate ligament or something like that, right? So, again, this team is not stainless yet. I still want to see some other stuff. But James, like I say, the way things are trending, keep hopeful for all that title stuff. I'm not going to totally rule it out. I mean, I kind of am, but why not have the optimism for it? Why not? Belief is step 1.
Let's win our next game. Let's keep it. Let's keep this run. Maybe we can go invincible. Relax, James. All right. Leeds, Chelsea, 3-0 Leeds, Jack.
I didn't see the game. I didn't see the game. I'll be honest. I was at the Pokemon World Championships because I'm incredibly cool. But,
That's actually so cool. You have a Pokemon World Championship. You know how badass that is? World Championship, mad.
But listen, yeah, not good. The Koulibaly red isn't good, especially, in a way it actually applies a little bit more pressure on the Fofana deal. It wasn't a straight red, but it does mean they'll miss the next game. So that Fofana deal, to a certain extent, there's a teensy bit more pressure on that as well. Again, I don't want to just kind of keep bagging on the guy, but this is a concern that I have about Thomas Tuchel. This is the kind of when he gets his next full-time season in charge. Historically, the drop-off is significantly more than it was from his first full season when he has been in charge historically. So, again, that coupled with the fact that Chelsea like to work their way through managers. I mean, that was under an old ownership. I don't know whether that will be the same under the new ownership, but I can imagine it probably will be. There's still a lot of key decision makers at the club who are the same faces. So I wonder if Tuchel will start seeing that pressure soon. But again, James, Aubameyang can come in, Fofana can come in. Right. Frankie de Jong to Chelsea is still not been put out and totally discredited yet. So if something like that happens again, I'm not ruling something out here, but we need some time here. Yeah, timeout. So Silver Surfer, first of all, Chelsea in trouble, guys. Bringing in Alba make the difference. I guess we can touch on that in a second. Can we talk about Tuchel competing Klopp for the whiniest manager? Hey, listen, this is a skill that I give a lot of managers credit for. You protect your players, especially in the modern era. There's a lot less with the younger generation that they can take accountability for their performances. So a skill of managers at the moment is deflecting. Now, deflecting can be injuries, deflecting can be this, deflecting can be that. Whining about one thing or another is, okay, an unfavorable trait if you're trying to like the person as a guy. But if you're criticizing players, it creates a drama that you may not necessarily need in the dressing room. So I personally don't have a problem with managers whining. I know the psychology aspect of why that works.
I feel like a few things here. Chelsea in the middle, I didn't mind the four there. I didn't mind what I seen from Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Mason Mount, Conor Gallagher, Jorginho there. But when Chelsea don't have the ball, the transition ain't great, Jack. Right?
No.
I don't think when Leeds had it, they were scared that a ball could have been nipped there, and people have been going on how poor his performances has been lately. But Kante, a big miss to me.
I think I'd just like to say this. I'd just like to say this too. I think his race is run, James. I think his body is at a point where he's given up on him now. This man has covered more yards in his career, I think, than arguably any other player in existence. And then I think that we'll start seeing these little injuries just start happening more and more and more, and eventually he'll start calling it a day because it's just when you kind of see something and you just get that sense. I just get the feeling that Conte's race is run here a little bit.
A few things to be worried about. Sterling, offensively, you wonder where that goal's going to come from now.
Yeah,
I just watched him today.
I thought it would be Sterling, honestly, but I guess not.
I don't know. I just felt that I didn't feel as assured as he used to be under Manchester City. And again, sometimes getting that first goal is probably at times is the hardest part. And once you get it, the goals kind of come. And I know Sterling is a top player, and he would probably find a way. But I don't see him getting into the right places enough for my liking, Jack. If you're missing if you're getting into the right position, you're missing chances. That's all right because you're getting into the right position. He's not doing that enough for me right now, and that's a little bit of a worry.
Havertz is getting in the position, but not hitting the target, So again, I think there's a certain level of, and I really like Kai Havertz. I know he's come under some criticism lately. People saying, has he really ever been worth it, kind of thing. I think Kai Havertz is a really terrific player. But again, you need those stats to back it up, I'm afraid. Silver Surfer, your question about Aubameyang coming in and making the difference. Look, it's a massive upgrade on what they have. But what I will say is if Chelsea are going to keep, a friend of mine is a Chelsea fan. He was mentioning about how crossing has increased a lot this season for Chelsea. You got Broja on the bench, right? You got this big Albanian dude who feeds off these kinds of crosshairs, and your team struggling for goals. And he was great at Southampton last year. I don't know why just for one game Tuchel doesn't just start Broja up top, and just see what happens.
I also see this linked, and it had me tingling my feet because I like it on both sides. And it was Ivan Toney to Chelsea. I like it a lot. Ivan Toney, for somebody that's only 5'9", he's one of the best aerial players in the Premier League. I think he won the most aerial duels last season. And the way Chelsea are spamming crosses into the box, if you want to do that with a player like Ivan Toney in there, especially with the quality of ball coming in there, that could be something that could be very effective.
Well, James, again, and this would cost a lot of money because of how valuable he is to this team. But we talked about a match earlier with another striker in there who I would say might be a nice fit for Chelsea. Throw Alexander Mitrovic in there. That kind of gives me Diego Costa type vibes. Just kind of kind of brutish, gets himself about, is a handful, can score a goal. He'll get way more chances to be prolific. So, again, why not? But again, if Fulham, man, you're gonna have to pay Fulham a lot of money.
Another
and James,
thing that
Ivan Toney. Brentford and Fulham are both going to want, the world and more for those two guys.
Another thing we forgot to mention there is Edward Mendy. There's been a few times, Jack, he's had these mistakes now. This isn't the first time we've seen it for him. This is a problem, I think, especially with his feet. I don't know how Chelsea are going to sort that out there, but again, I think he's been good for Chelsea, but they need to sort that out because you can't be giving away goals, especially at the highest level like that on a constant basis. Again, let me just talk about quickly before we get into the final game. West Ham, Brentford, Brighton, actually 2-0 Brighton, yeah. Jack. West Ham, 3 games, no wins. Are we worried? Anything?
I'm worried. Some serious kind of players, and by the sounds of things, looks like some serious personalities based on Declan Rice's latest comments. Some serious personalities have left the team as well. And James, this is Declan Rice's last year. I don't care. This is Declan Rice's last year. He's been a company guy, a club guy, whatever you want to call it. But this is his last year. Chelsea, Manchester United are the teams that have been historically linked. But this is a guy who's gonna get a big move soon. And there's your biggest personality leaving the club anyway. I do want to wait until Gianluca Scamacca starts starting games because I do think that is an unbelievable upgrade in that area of the pitch. But yeah, I think that maybe there was a certain level of complacency, James. I don't know if you would agree with that, but from last year there was this kind of, oh yeah, we're kind of best of the rest. We can just show up and play our usual game and we'll just finish like 6th, 7th, somewhere around there. Like, hey, we're actually pretty good. We'll make some European spots. This will be great. And actually it's like, well, sorry guys, but no, you're not. You need to still put the work in because James, to me, the middle class of the Premier League has improved unbelievably. I don't know if I've ever seen a middle class of the Premier League this strong in my lifetime.
I'm not sure about that.
I'm just putting it out there. I think from let me phrase it this way: from 7th to like 14th, 15th. I think that group have really upped their game from last season. I don't know if you would agree.
Wait, from last season? Yes, totally. Yes. Last season, totally agree with you. Not all time, but totally, I agree with you. Now, best game of the week: Newcastle versus Man City, 3-3. What a game that was! Up and down. Man City getting the early goal. Usually, when Man City getting the early goal, is curtains for a team, but Newcastle getting a 3-1 lead, in Man City showing signs of great champions by coming back from 3-1 down and obviously getting a draw. But how did you feel about this game, Jack? Because I have mixed emotions about it overall.
I have mixed emotions about it too. I think you saw the good, the bad, and the ugly of everybody in this game. Kevin De Bruyne. Oof. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, how it's weird to say this, but is Kevin De Bruyne underrated? Like, it's weird. Some of the stuff he does, James, is absolute magic. And I'm just thinking, like, in the all-time kind of echelon of Premier League midfielders, like, man, he might be number one. Really, he might be. He's
Jack. He has a strong. If he keeps it up, he can leave the game in the Premier League. He's been the best in the Premier League era.
And again, guys, I'm not saying that lightly. I know this is a league with those, your 3 English guys who you always talk about, and a bunch of other unbelievably talented midfielders which have graced this league. But like, Kevin De Bruyne is special. I don't need to tell you guys that, but there you go, James. Anson Maximan is such a threat. I love it. I love it. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a winger. I think like with Wilfried Zaha, it's a wide player who's immensely talented, who has the space to play in to show you how good he is. There's a different caliber of winger who has to play against teams that do a low block in their own third. It's a different style, right? Like I look at an Angel Di Maria, right? Angel Di Maria, if a team's in a low block and you're trying to just pull something out that's crazy to try and get a goal, Angel Di Maria is your guy. I don't know if the likes of a Wilfred Zaha or some Maximin can do as well in those kind of areas as somebody like a prime Di Maria, right? But seeing him play for this Newcastle team is an absolute joy. I love that. You see the running from these guys as well. Miguel Almiron as well, like absolutely runs his socks off. It's crazy. And yeah, a nice wake-up call, I think, for Pep. I think that'll be a really nice way. I think that, James, even between you and me, I think there were murmurs of like, man, City are just going to like win every game or what? So I'm glad that they kind of had this just to be able to go, okay,
Jack,
you scored 3 goals, the opposition scored 3 too.
Thoughts on Ake and Stones?
It wouldn't be my two. I mean, if they're fully fit, I'm having Ruben Diaz and Laporte there too. But I think Pep will be the first person to tell you they're playing a lot of football matches this year with nearly their entire squad playing in the World Cup. So there's going to be lots of rotation here too.
Do you think it's interesting that Ake was subbed off 21 minutes into the game?
I do, but I mean, my initial reaction was like injury related or like aggravating a pre-existing injury. But I mean, by the sounds of your question, do we think that's a problem? Is that tactical performance or?
I don't know. It's Pep Guardiola, and he won't. To me, he doesn't seem like a manager that would wait. But I think there's a few things I want to touch on here, Jack. A few things I want to touch on. Both teams should leave the game disappointed. No matter what team you are, at any point, you losing a 3-1 lead is very disappointing, especially when you have 30 minutes left. No matter what team to me, at what level, and I don't care how strong the opposition is, disappointed on that side from Newcastle's point of view. And Newcastle also should have feel like as much as they had a 3-1 lead, they probably should have extended that, especially in the first half where they had some great chances. Almiron, where he has that clear-cut opportunity, he blazes over the bar, and how on top they were. I thought St. Maximin, I've never seen Kyle Walker get that much of a pacing in my life, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
He had him backpedaling the whole game. It was incredible. I haven't seen some guy look Kyle Walker in the eye and say, I'm going to go past you that many times, because it doesn't happen. Even Kylian Mbappe, Jack, I didn't see how somebody like paced him for 90 minutes straight. It was crazy. Kyle Walker might need to retire after that one, but of course, Kyle Walker is still great.
Credit where credit's due to VAR as well. I know it's not covered itself in glory so far this season, but I think that the overturning of the Trippier red card was something I was very happy with. Guys, again, dark arts are part of football, and they're here to stay. And I'll be honest with you, I don't mind it. Kieran Trippier made that challenge in the full knowledge he would get a yellow card. That's what he should have gotten. He got a red. They checked it. He then got a yellow. I'm okay with it. It's the right decision. So credit where credit's due, because a red card there and Man City win this game.
A few more things I would like to touch on there. Man City, they have this weird thing right now, is that they never know when they're beaten. We talk about Manchester United being the comeback kings of like the Premier League. Jack, since 2010, you can easily say Man City are the true comeback kings of the Premier League. You look at the amount of time that they can be 2-0 down with a short space of time to go, and then they go for it. Jack, they scored 2 goals in 3 minutes?
I'm going to name drop Liverpool as well. I think, Liverpool, especially when they go into losing positions, they come back more often than not as well. So I think the bigger issue here is, again, is football heritage, James. And the moment you start that rhetoric and that narrative as you go into games, that's what the fans start thinking about. And then before you know it, the year is 2032, right? And you're going into a game and you're like, oh, we're Man City. We always come back because of a narrative that started in 2021, 2022, right?
And to me, I feel like the most impressive thing is that it's a champion mentality for them, not knowing when they're beaten. Erling Haaland, Jack, there was a big notion about him only having 8 touches against Bournemouth, and it was an issue to a certain point. And playing for this Manchester City team, you shouldn't be disheartened at any point if you don't get that many touches, because you have to be at the right place at the right time. And like, you've seen that for the goal. But I also seen some really, really good bits, Jack. Erling Haaland is perfectly built for the Barclays, for the Premier League. Jack, there were certain points when once he gets in behind, I'm seeing defenders trying to hold him back or anything like that. Jack, he bullies defenders.
I know, he's a bully. I know.
It's brutal. And this guy is going to score lots and lots of goals in the Premier League. He probably should be disappointed that he didn't win the game for Manchester City overall. But again, to me, that's an added plus for them. And it's like Erling Haaland coming alive in certain points is really good.
Well, again, James, we know this about Pep Guardiola. I think Pep Guardiola can still look at Erling Haaland and tell him that he had a fantastic game, even though he got 8 touches. Again, guys, stats aren't everything. Stats are nice to kind of back up an argument and whatnot, but there are plenty of holes to point into stats and all that kind of stuff. So, again, I think Erling Haaland's been brilliant. I did have the initial opinion that it would take a little while for him to kind of make a change here because it's an adjustment playing for Manchester City. It is, and Pep Guardiola, of course, it is. But again, James, you made the point. I think you and I are both on course here to be correct with our prediction that this man will be the top scorer. Especially against these weaker teams. And James, in the bigger games, we know he comes to life. So I'm just looking forward to when Man City play these big teams because he's going to start bullying some people.
Oh, listen, as we've seen with that incredible pass from Kevin De Bruyne, I do think Joe Willock should have done better with that. Them passes that in and around the area, it's going to be a big thing. And also, Phil Foden just pick his head up a little bit more, Jack. There's a few more tap-ins in there for Erling Haaland too. But Manchester City, great character. Newcastle, I'm telling you right now, is we can see this thing slowly building. Now, I think it's going to take – people think it's going to happen like that. I don't think that they're going to win the title anytime soon. I don't think that they're going to win the title in the next 10 years. But I don't think they'll win the title in the next 15 years, Jack. I feel like there's such a high pedestal between them and like the rest of the teams. And every team is money. People say every team is money nowadays. Could they prize Manchester United out of a player? But there's something that they can build there and become if they can establish themselves as a top 6 team. That to me would be a huge thing.
Well, in the next 10 years, I'm not ruling out a title. Year 7, year 8 of that next 10-year span, like why not? I think like we've just touched on there, James. It's the private investment fund from the Saudis is joke money. It's joke money. Just to put this into perspective for you guys, I believe this is in USD. The Mansour family, the Manchester City ownership, City Football Group, and those guys, I believe it's like 26 billion US dollars. I think the private investment fund Saudi Arabia is like 620 or something like that. So again,
just give me like 0.1% of that,
and I'll take half of that as well.
Oh,
so
listen.
Just as an example, right? I'm just giving you guys this as an example. The City ownership, which we see as just this throwing money around, not caring, blah, 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 is chump change to the private investment fund in Saudi Arabia. It is. So again, they're going to spend to the limits of financial fair play every year. They're going to upgrade the coach when they feel like the coach needs upgrading. They're going to pay for the infrastructure to be put in place. And again, they have the fan base, they have the history, they have everything that they could possibly need for Newcastle to be a force again. And guys, I hate to say it, it's one of my little signature little phrases. The relationship between money and football is undeniable. This Newcastle team, if they spend the limits of what they're allowed to spend over the next however long, this will be a title-winning team in the next 10 years.
Let's see about that. But guys, we've talked about all the games in the Premier League. We've ticked off week 3. Manchester United finally get off the board. Liverpool are in trouble. Man City with an incredible comeback. Can Newcastle finish in the top half? Spurs, can they win the league? And guys, Arsenal top the league. Ooh,
perfect record. Perfect record. Just saying.
But guys, this is Box to Box Football. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching this, hit that like button. It's really, really big. For the algorithm on YouTube, guys. Check out all our videos. More videos are going to be dropping this week. Spurs fans, we got an interesting Spurs video. Also going to be dropping soon.
Also predictions, you guys. We're keeping it rolling. It's going to be 4 weeks in a row. We'll see how we do.
Get ready for the match week 4-1 coming soon, guys. We're going to leave right now. This is Box to Box Football. Jack and James, thank you all for coming out here and watching us today. And if you have subscribed, thank you so much. And we will see you next time. I'm off to bed.